Since I acquired my deep fryer, my standards for what comprises a good plate of fish and chips has been vastly elevated. The golden brown color, the level of crispiness, fresh cut fries done to the same level of perfection and served with a side of well-conceived coleslaw are what I hope to have arrive at my table when I order this time-honored dish in a restaurant. But that's not always the case. I've resigned myself to the fact that if I want good fish and chips, I'll just have to do it myself. Today we are going to take 4 100-gram pieces of wild-caught Pacific cod and deep fry them in a simple non-alcoholic beer batter recipe to produce this. So I have all the ingredients lined up here. In this particular case, I'm using a non-alcoholic beer. This stuff is called Partake. I got the IPA, brewed in Toronto, and what I've found with this particular brew, it's absolutely horrible to drink in my humble opinion, but it has a little bit of a bitterness to it, which makes it just ideal for fish and chips. So I use this by choice, actually preference. It's called Partake. Partake from the Partake Brewing Company of Toronto, Ontario. So my batter is going to consist of 1 egg, 1 whipped egg or beaten egg, a cup and a half of flour, that's all just simply all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of onion powder, teaspoon of black pepper, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of garlic powder, and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And of course, again, the Partake non-alcoholic beer. And that's what I've found to be just an absolutely exceptional beer batter for fish and chips. Here's a list of the ingredients for this beer batter. I will also post this list again before the video is over. Before we get started, let's take a closer look at the non-alcoholic beer I'm using. You'll notice that it is an IPA, which stands for India Pale Ale. Most IPAs have some level of bitterness, which is measured in IBUs, which stands for International Bitterness Units. This non-alcoholic IPA clocks in at 26 IBUs. In other words, it has enough of a citrusy taste that you can forgo the lemon in your beer batter recipe. Of course, you can use any type of beer you have handy, but I particularly like this one because of how well it works in a beer batter and the fact that I can buy individual cans at the liquor store. So let's get to it. All right. I'm just going to use 1 egg in this particular case. I like to use a whisk for this. Now that's whipped up quite nicely. Now, I'm going to put my ingredients all in this. There's nice, it's all mixed in. Makes life really easy. We'll just put the whole thing in there. Mix the egg up in it first. And now we'll take the Partake. We'll just add this till we get the consistency we want. I expect that I'll be using the whole can. There it is. Doesn't that look good? Now let's do some deep frying, but first a couple of important pointers. If your deep frying setup uses a wire mesh basket, it is important to slowly lower battered items into the hot oil. This method will quickly form an outer crust, which will help you avoid some of the batter seeping through and cooking around the mesh. When this happens, it is very difficult to unstick your battered food item from the wire mesh without destroying your battered coating. It is also very important to always be vigilant for small pieces of whatever you are deep frying breaking off and continuing to cook in and ruin your oil. You should always have something like this handy for removing those bits. With the oil temperature set at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, I've gently lowered each battered piece of fish into the basket to deep fry for 8 minutes. Then from this point, I'll give it another 5 minutes to get that golden brown color and level of crispiness I'm after. Here are the first two pieces after 13 minutes of deep frying, and if I say so myself, they look perfect. If these levels of color and crispiness are not to your liking, you can always knock a minute or two off of the deep frying time. Now for the final pointer. Deep fried battered fish needs to cool down a bit and de-oil before eating. I simply lay them on a paper towel as they come out of the deep fryer, and this seems to work quite well. And they are at their very best as soon as they are ready to eat. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, and as always, I hope to see you next time.
Stars won't shine for you, your dreams turn black and blue. On those dark nights you'll be alright, I'll be right there with you. Together we'll see it through.